Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live kickoff and Microsoft AI panel here on the main stage of the 2024 AIGA Design Conference. It's great to see folks here in the chat. You were here early, introducing yourselves, shouting out where you're tuning in from. So it's great to see people from all over the US. And I think I saw people from Europe and Asia and South America earlier today as well. So it's great that we have this international audience here today in our online conference. In case you don't know me already, my name is Lishan Huang. I'm the Senior Director of Learning and Programs here at AIGA, the Professional Association for Design. I want to keep my remarks right now relatively short, as we already kicked off the conference in a video which aired earlier today, and you may have also seen it in a pop-up window when you first logged into the conference platform. But in case you missed it or any other session over the course of the conference, you can go to the Agenda tab when you're logged into the Excel Events platform and toggle the Show Past Sessions toggle, and then you can click through to view the recordings of things that have already happened. You'll have on-demand viewing access to all of the sessions after they happen live over the course of the 3 days of the conference, as well as an additional 30 days of access to the recordings after the conference ends on Saturday. And we're also looking for ways to extend that access to AIGA members before we start releasing select sessions to the general public. So in case you missed it earlier today, we've had some workshops on regenerative design as well as designing for tomorrow. We had a design dialogue. It's called To Design or Not to Design, as well as a presentation featuring some of this year's 365 AIGA Year in Design Award winners, as well as hearing from some of the jurors who were on that committee. And just as another announcement, we recently announced this year's 50 Books, 50 Covers winners as well, and you can check that out on aiga.org. We're still collecting the juror and winner statements, so look out for those announcements on our social media channels at AIGA Design. We weren't able to complete those before this conference kicked off, but maybe we can add it to our bonus content later on. While you're exploring the various sessions here, be sure to check out our sponsors and exhibitors in the Design Fair tab as well. And for the first time ever at an AIGA Design Conference, we have some built-in gamification as well that you can see in the lobby when you first logged in. You'll be able to earn points for different activities as you take part in the conference on the platform here, and it will give you a chance for the winners to win prizes from our partners, including books from Phaidon and a year's membership at the Interaction Design Foundation, which gives you access to their catalog of online UX courses. So that's all for the announcements for now. On with the show. At this week's AIGA Design Conference, as well as all year leading up to now on the AIGA Design Podcast and in our webinar programming, we have been exploring this theme of margins as spaces for opportunity, for challenges, and innovation. And you'll see that the presenters and facilitators this week have chosen various facets and interpretations of the theme. This brings us to the particular topic of this panel discussion now. I am delighted to welcome some of the designers behind Microsoft's AI products, including Copilot. I'm sure for most of us, AI has been a really hot topic lately. It's offered us new tools to play with, to experiment, and to innovate, but it's also left us with many open questions about how this is going to change and potentially disrupt our design practice and our careers. At AIGA, we've always believed that the power lies ultimately in the hands of designers to create the world we want to see. So our panelists will be giving us an insider's perspective on how they're crafting the future, share some of the challenges they're facing in this work, and how they're going about solving them. So moderating this panel, we have Alexey Fedorov, who's the Director of Global Brand at Microsoft, as well as an AIGA National Board member, and he's joined by his colleagues Alexis Copeland, Phyllis Murphy, and Lucas Fitzpatrick. Alexey and the panelists themselves will introduce themselves in more detail, so I'll turn things over now to our panelists for them to tell you more. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Lishan. Hello, AIGA. So excited and so honored to be here and kicking off AIGA Design Conference. As Lishan mentioned, AI is a crucial topic. It's on everybody's minds. And we wanted to have this panel conversation not to say how AI is great, or not to how tremendous our product, but rather open up the curtain and talk about how we as designers actually build this product. how the culture enables us to create it, and what are some of the tractions, iterations, and the processes we use to get and create those incredible things. Before we set the ground, before we kick off the panel, let's play the reel to really see what's the scope of AI, at least at Microsoft, is today. So as you can see, it's a really wide, large world of AI, and today we'll start unpacking and looking behind the scenes on how we create this. At Microsoft, we really think that technology is the force for good. And what was really fascinating for me to watch this change from the inside is really how the company's culture and how actually the design community comes together to bring AI into different products that we have across the company. So today I'm joined by three incredible panelists who work at the different facets of brand design and identity at Microsoft. Alexis Copeland, who's the Principal Creative Director, Lucas Fitzpatrick, who works on product and brand design, and Phyllis Murphy, Senior Creative Director. And today we'll go through the culture, through the design process, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end of the panel. Really, building anything begins with culture. And so we wanted to start by talking about how does actually design at Microsoft work? Alexis, I'll hand off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, design culture. What does that mean at Microsoft? Well, Microsoft is not like the company that immediately comes to mind when you think about design. Our CEO, Satya, has this saying that our job is not to be cool, but to make other people cool. So we have this joke that we've been uncool kids since 1975. And even though we're uncool, I feel like design has been changing at Microsoft in the past decade. We've brought in a lot of new talent and creativity into the community, I think as an artifact of us sharing our process and design more externally. And we've been just really trying to infuse design more into our products for our customers. And we're starting to get recognition and winning awards. But at the heart, like the awards, it's egoless. And I'd love to share a personal story with you of my concept with ego. It actually began right in this building in Brunswick, Georgia. So also in the South. I know that there were some folks in the chat calling in from the South there. And this is one of the oldest high schools in Georgia. And we had this art class. And my art teacher, Mr. Veeder, he had this assignment for us. It was about like an hour long where all of the students had to draw their ego. And Mr. Veeder was a pretty conceptual art teacher. He really liked Dada and all of those weird existential things. So this project for me was, it was really confusing. I was 16. There's a picture of me. Here's my class. And I was like, what is my ego? I don't even know who I am. I'm 16. So I sat there with that piece of paper and trying to impress my art teacher. I was like, I'm not going to draw anything. I'm going to make this very conceptual. And I think I just like drew a line or something. But as the hour progressed, it became torture for me. So I just decided to start doodling. I didn't even know what I was drawing. I was just doodling something. And so, yeah, I didn't know what that meant. I was like, well, there's something. I hope I get a good grade. And he came around and he picked up all of our pieces of paper And then he puts it in a trash bag. And he goes over to that corner window up there on the 3rd floor, and he opens it, and he takes the trash bag with all of our drawings of egos inside, and he throws it out the window. And he says, "Your egos don't belong here. This is art class." And from that moment, like, that was a pretty transformational moment for me. But I have to say, like, from that classroom, I've rediscovered that same classroom here at Microsoft. And so I would consider all of Microsoft designers a community of learners. We're decentralized. It's really about the culture of learning here. There's not really a singular design output. It's not about aesthetics. It's not about the project, the team. When you hear Microsoft design, it's actually a network of different various teams across the company working on different businesses, different products, all coming together as a collective to help build on each other's work. And that's not really where Microsoft started, but it's where it is today. And it's where we have to be today in order to thrive in AI. And so we have this concept of learn it all, not know it all. We're not ego driven. We're inclusive. We work across teams. We work across different opinions. We have this way of measuring success at Microsoft for the business. And usually, tying design and business together is, in art school, you would think, oh, like, no, let's just focus on the craft. But at a company this large, like, tying business to design is great. And so we have this metric of measuring success, and it's called these 3 circles of impact. And one is contributing to the success of others. The other is building off the work and ideas of others. And the other one is contributing to a team, business, our customer. And so we have this. So those are the 3 ways that we measure impact, and we come together every year. We have this annual design week where we share things that we're working on or things that we're failing. And so this is constantly evolving and connecting. So design is a culture. It's not static. It's breathing. It's evolving. And I think for that reason, we're able to get here. And one of our biggest investments yet has been Copilot. Here's the Copilot icon if you haven't seen it yet. And when you first look at this, like, the first thing you think is color. Wow, like, at least for me. And that's what we wanted to do, is make something that stood out. Like, it was very colorful, voluminous, dimensional. And that's immediately what you first see. But why this icon? Why Copilot? How do we get here? What is the history? I'd like to start unpacking that a little bit. So we're going to go in a time machine and travel 1.5 years in the past where we started and see what happened. So back, I think, in February 2023 or so, we announced this product called Bing Chat. And at this time, everyone in tech was racing towards AI. There was this new tech development called large language models, or LLMs. And it's a way to optimize text to get really immediate results. And to optimize searching. And so the first obvious place that we put that in was Bing Chat, which is an AI-powered chat assistant for searching. And it definitely wasn't perfect. We rushed like everyone else. We just wanted to see, like, how do we bring this tech inside of our products? And there was a famous article you might have seen online from a New York Times reporter about this chat, where he had a chatbot named Sydney. And it definitely had its flaws. That story is really captivating in many different ways. But it definitely was really revealing to us that we were just in the beginning stages of developing this product. It was in infancy. I like to call this stage, I'm just a baby. Like, we all like cat memes. This is just baby AI. And so, but it was a great start. And so we also had this directive from our CEO where he had this, if you go to the next, yeah. So he had this quote of, he told everyone, "This is a groundbreaking advancement in reshaping human-computer interaction, giving humans more agency and accessibility through the universal interface of natural language." And I'm back in that classroom in high school, and I'm like, what does this even mean? What do we do? I don't know what this means. But gosh, like, groundbreaking, humanity, like, these are all big things if it's true. So what do we do? I didn't know what this meant, but I knew one thing. that if this was going to be groundbreaking for humanity, we did not want it to feel like typical AI. We wanted it to feel like more human. You know, the way that Hollywood represents AI is usually very techy, very dark, and these aesthetics are, you know, not really great for humanity. So we wanted to reimagine AI in a soft pastel palette, something that felt really approachable and inviting. We wanted to represent the harmonious fusion of creativity and technology, to really kind of represent this paradigm shift towards large language models, which is text-based. So in the art direction, it meant like leaning into typography, which is really fun for design. Like, how do we represent text in space? Also here, when we do 3D visualizations of our products, we like to be inspired by the UX, and then also the value props. So every object or texture is carefully art directed to be inspired from the product itself. So there's this friendliness depicted into the AI. But really the product started to emerge as a brand, if you would call it that, a month later after we announced Copilot within M365. M365 is also, it means Office. We also at the same time was going through a rebrand between M365 and Office. And we had this icon that was new for M365. So we started to tie it with Copilot. And at this stage, everything was evolving and iterating almost on a daily basis. The icon's been iterating upon. Everything has probably been iterated upon except for the name. Luckily, the name has stayed intact. But March was madness. You know, we knew that we were going to announce something in M365, but we didn't really know to what extent. But what became a minor announcement quickly evolved every day into like a major global announcement. And everything changed: the strategy, the UI, the features, even the announcement video that me and the team were working on. We were having script rewrites like every day, and we even were iterating on that the day before announce. But despite the challenges, we were able to deliver like a proper product within just a few weeks' time, and we were making edits a day before the release. And so you can see that product coming across M365. Here you go. Yeah, across Teams, Excel, PowerPoint. But everything was evolving. And so a month later, we announced Windows Copilot. And I think this was about the time that us designers started to really understand what, you know, that big vision from our CEO was. Like, oh, this is coming into Windows. And you know what? There's going to be a key on the keyboard that's going to trigger or evoke this experience. So we were starting to see, okay, this is going to be a really big shift for the way that our products are going to be experienced in the future. But with that also came this challenge of, we can't have two different icons depict two different experiences, the same icon depict two different experiences. And what are we going to print on the key? We have to design something new. Oh, and we only have 3 weeks. So that was unfortunate. So what do we do? Well, going back to that collective community at Microsoft, we did a call for icon designers. And we got 20 designers on a call and said, we have 3 weeks, we have to make a mark, but what is it going to be? So we sketched and we iterated. And it was confusing. We didn't have like a brand strategy or creative brief, like typically associated with a brand project. We didn't really have an UI. Things were changing every day. We had no business plans. We had nothing. So we sketched a lot, like trying to find a shot in the dark. But with each concept, there was this great power because we had an opportunity to propose positioning for each one. And I like to call this the messy middle. And honestly, we're still in the messy middle, but this is where creativity really flourishes. We as creators get to help carve out some stakes and help our partners really see, hey, like this is potential directions we could go with this. And so this is one of the concepts. It's this companion cute chatbot. We explored this. While these were really cute, they were probably too youthful for a major corporation like Microsoft. So we quickly moved on from that idea. And then we also started saying, okay, well, we're typically inspired by what's happening in the product. And what's happening in the product? Sparkles. everything was glistening in the UI. We had sparkles on everything. And sparkles are a major symbol, iconic symbol for AI that we're seeing throughout the industry. So on the right, you'll see some of the concepts where we're sketching like, oh, how can we riff on this concept of a sparkle companion, like a guiding light towards, intelligence. But because everyone was doing it, and also we can't add sparkles everywhere inside of the experience, we wanted to stand out, so we kept pushing. And another concept that we came up with was this concept of a mirage, or this like organic, flowy object that adapts to your rhythms and needs. We like to see this as a ballet dance. So it learns from you, it adapts from you. It's very emotional. This was probably the most emotional mark that we designed. And it just felt really innovative. We love the coloring. Another concept that we came up was the generative circle down below. This one really was attractive to us because it really signaled like vibrations. So we could see this morphing and evolving based on user intent, and this interactive loop between, consumer, human, creativity, computing. And if we compare this to the Windows square, which it's very modular, geometric, this one was the antithesis to that. It was really about the philosopher of the AI. So this juxtaposition between circles and squares, even though it's going back, to basic geometry there, like that really felt like really interesting to us. But then we had this other concept called the prompt. This one came out of what I would like to call an icon briefcase. This is where all icons go to die when they're not selected for other products. But this is the briefcase that we pull out when we have no timelines. So we pull out that briefcase where we're looking in things. And actually this icon was, a version of this icon was actually getting ready to be shipped with another product. So we had to disrupt that workflow, convince the designers to say, hey, this could be used for AI instead. So we were able to propose this as an option too. And the reason why we liked this option was because it really showed that duality, the right and left, the companionship, the person who supports and guides you, the co-pilot. So that dynamic interplay between customer and co-pilot, even that like the shape, it looks like two bubbles. It could represent this fluid conversation, or even holding hands, input and output. This, and also the hidden slash in the middle, which is was at the time the keyboard key to evoke prompting. This one was kind of interesting to us. So we had 4 concepts, 4 final finalists, but always going back to the keyboard to say, okay, what is it going to look like there? We have all this dimension and coloring that we can treat to a color icon, but when it goes printed on the key, we have to have a knockout version. And so you'll see the keyboard on the next slide there. Yeah, you'll see that it doesn't exactly translate. So we wanted to keep in mind like which one really translated the best. And that's when we came back to our final select, which was this prompt. We added a lot more color. We try to make it feel a little more uniquely Microsoft, more human, vibrant, dimensional. We felt like this mark captured the most evergreen positioning we could at the time, a collaboration between humanity and technology. Because at this time, like, we have to, we don't really know where the product's going, but we have to say, where do we imagine it will go the most? Like, if we were to have a North Star and what we could then color with meaning over time, this one felt like it. And so, especially between that, the chat bubbles, you can see broken out, and then that prompt. And you can see a prompt box underneath there. That's a piece of the UI that we use to infer from the design. It just shows that conversational LLM of input and output. We also did a lot of color exploration. And this was necessary because we have a lot of different products, and we discovered a different colorway for each one. We actually shipped the blue colorway in Word, the green one in Excel, PowerPoint, etc. You can see those come up within the UI on the next slide. So Copilot traverses our app ecosystem really elegantly, adapting to each one. However, we all knew that this is all going to be one thing at the end of the day. So why not have one icon, one color palette to represent all apps, to have one consistent, trusted experience across Microsoft? So we went in that direction, and we explored different animation states the icon would go across on its journey, like a thinking state, a waiting state, an audio state, and sometimes Copilot gets things wrong, so an error state. We also explored the creative expression. How do we represent this in a dimensionalized way for storytelling of brand and marketing? How can we take that icon and express it in 3D, even when the icon is not there, to represent that information flow, our intelligence across our suite of apps? And also kind of represent it in a product space, like how would it show up in the App Store, and how can we showcase this like a store experience? And so this is where we were, I would say, just a month ago. So we've gone 1.5 years to a month ago. Where are we now? Well, we're still learning, and we keep iterating, and we're ready for it. We're starting to think about, like, what does this iteration mean for our brand? And we're even starting to learn as this more and more people start using it, that potentially it doesn't need to be all one thing. Maybe actually we need to have an AI that meets you and your needs for work, and then meets you and your needs for your full life experience. And so the most powerful productivity tool could be this AI, and the design that we have for that needs to be slightly adjusted, optimized for productivity. We've been looking at how can we express that within the brand and marketing for that as well, showing that intelligent graph, still using that warmness, that friendliness from the very beginning, but evolving it to feel a little bit more sophisticated for this context. But with that said, I would love to hand it off to Lucas, who's been doing some great work on how to evolve it specifically for everyday people. So he's going to walk you through consumer.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Lucas. Earlier this year, I joined with a team to Microsoft, and really we're charged with the goal to think about Copilot in the context of a companion on a personal side. So I'm going to walk us through the journey of designing for and branding a companion. To take a step back, I think in much of product design and brand, we obsess over these details and pixels and interactions and imagery. It's like this mix of elements that ultimately, we're trying to evoke some sense, a feeling, an emotion, an idea. But what happens when what you're designing for speaks for itself? What if it has its own personality? Maybe it has one-to-one relationships with tens of millions of people. The answer I found with that is to actually start with the model, start with the language itself, and build from there. So, in the past, while we're designing these elements of evoke a feeling, we now have a different place to start as crafters and designers. As an organization, we've seen the role of design expand beyond the visual in what I think is a really profound way. Our pixel-obsessed minds have expanded to the tokens, which create the words and the sentences, which ultimately evoke a feeling. That's really what we're crafting here. And that's kind of like the heart of where we start as designers, as brand designers, brand builders. And from there, we can begin that process of expanding from there. What's the identity? What's the personality? What does it feel like to interact with your companion? That's the basis for what we build as a brand and the product design. Unfortunately, that's not always the process we're in, and we have timelines and business realities. So what if the model isn't ready for you to talk to? How do you start exploring? So what we did is take a step back, and we started searching for what that feeling might be like. We knew in our imaginations that this is going to be a little bit more friendly. It's going to be a little bit more conversational. We haven't spoken to it yet, but what might that look like? Maybe we start designing for a long-term vision. Maybe we imagine different audiences and imagine the right companion for them. Sometimes you don't even know what it's called yet, and you explore with different names. You try on different outfits, try on different hats. Maybe it names itself. And so it's really like this basis of broad exploration that kind of informed, what are the possibilities? How can we take this brand that Alexis and team have been working on and expand it for the personal use? Another way of thinking about this is our own personal expression. So if we think of this idea of having a companion kind of by your side, in your corner, what if the brand kind of took a backseat and it was more about the context of a personal connection, of showing more about the individual? Maybe the mark starts to transform to be about the environment where it's surrounded. Maybe it's about the individual user themselves. So I think it was this process of kind of breaking down what the possibilities were, knowing that we want to represent what the model is, but ultimately not be able to have that waterfall process that kind of led us to have a good grounding of ideas and exploration. So when we took the notion of personality and we take it into product design, we were challenged to break things down to the most simple levels. We're challenged to think about building the best vessel to interact with a companion, something we call the companion interface. And one of the central ideas there is to think about a way to let the personality to come through by having as few things as possible and building equity and focus into just a couple elements. One of those early ones is what we call the Copilot Composer, which is imagining if we transform what is a very ordinary piece of UI into something that's a central brand element, but also central to the product experience itself, and having that correlation and connection from the experience when you're interacting with Copilot to when you see it out there in the world, and trying to imagine how much delight and joy we can bring into that, and then extending it into the product itself. So if we have perhaps a lot of equity built into this rounded shape that's your portal to interacting with Copilot, perhaps that branded geometry expands to other cards and other feelings across the experience. And then ultimately, I think if we're successful as both product builders and brand designers, we start to feel the personality come to life kind of across a spectrum, but it still is kind of one voice. And then so we think about, when we're in the product experience itself, we want to allow Copilot to be the voice, to speak for itself. But outside of that, can we bring more personality to life in a sense of bringing the feeling of actual voice, of actual sound, and bring more joy and expression to the typography and colors? But ultimately, if we are successful, I think about creating a building for an AI is to have a spectrum of expression, but to feel like it's one entity, one voice, one companion that's kind of with you every step of the way. So as we look ahead to see what's next, I'd like to hand it over to Phyllis.
Thanks, Lucas. There it is. The big 5-0, everyone. The big 5-0. That's right. Microsoft is turning 50 this year in April. So next year, technically. But what is time, really? Well, time is 50 years. But at any other point in time, I think it would be really tempting for us to gaze back and reflect on everything we've done over the past 5 decades and party like it's 1975, right? But it really is not any other point in time. It's a very unique point in time. We're in a paradigm shift. We're carving new paths forward. We are blazing new trails. And most of those are the likes of which the world have never seen. So instead of looking back, we find ourselves spending a lot of time these days looking forward and asking ourselves, what's next, right? What's next? What's next? What's next? And the answer is always changing. What does the next 50 years look like? Not what did they look like 50 years ago? What is next? What are the next 50 years going to feel like, move like, dream like, smell like, taste like? And guess what? We don't know. We don't have all the answers to the questions. And even if we did, it wouldn't matter because the answers are always changing, right? Especially in the era of AI, the answers are always changing. We can only imagine what's next. And that is probably about the most exciting thing for any creative is when they can only imagine. The learning phase, the curiosity phase. But we know a couple things won't change. So from a Microsoft perspective, we are the empowerment company, right? We are not cool. We're here to make you cool. Thank you, Alexis, for reminding us about that. It's what people do with our tech that's important to us. And so our focus is really on humanity and empowering people. And that will always be the heart of Microsoft, no matter how much we change over the next 50 years, no matter what's next. That's not going to change. We're here to empower. And the last thing I will say, as designers, as people making things, as people doing things, as people who are in the learning and curiosity phase, as people who are in the messy middle and flourishing, and our creativity is flourishing, we're super excited. We don't mind turning 50. We might be the first people in the world that don't mind turning 50. We're excited about it. And we can't wait to be 100. And changes in the making. And we hope you'll mark your calendars and send us presents and come to our parties and celebrate our anniversary with us. But mostly, we hope you'll come make with us. We want you to make what's next. We want you to get down and dirty in the messy middle with us, because the future is creative, and it's all about what we do with our creativity together. Change is in the making.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. Thank you so much, Alexis. So now let's shift to our Q&A and unpack some of the thoughts, some of the things you folks mentioned. I really love listening to the story. I think there is so much that happens behind the scenes where the real magic transpires and where the design community really goes through extremely difficult questions. And so I have a few I want to run with you with. So Alexis, let's start with you. I think what your story really demonstrates is that there is no business brief. The timeline is 3 weeks. You need to figure out something that works in the product, in the physical, globally. And at the same time, it's new for everybody. So how do you design something when no one is actually an AI designer, when this is a new discipline? Like, how does the team go about it?
Right. So I think that what you said is so true. No one is an AI designer. And that shouldn't deter anyone from wanting to design for AI. Like, it's anyone can just jump in, because somehow I jumped in and I guess I'm still floating. And I think like but the one qualification that you need is curiosity, kind of like what Phyllis was saying there. You have to be naturally curious and a learner to say, like if you're someone that likes to do DIY projects or play and explore and just embrace in this learning, or then I think you would thrive as an AI designer, because things change every day. And so you have to be agile and ready for that adaptation. And then someone who is also a designer who doesn't care if their design that they just spent all day crafting gets thrown away. Like, you just gotta be like, oh, nice, refresh, be a phoenix, go to the next thing. And so we have this like startup-like culture that is really cool to bring to a behemoth like company like Microsoft, like Phyllis was saying, has been here for 50 years. So I think, it just means adaptation, ready and eager to pivot. For example, we have this concept of the input box. This is where you engage with Copilot. And I can't tell you how many times that box has been redesigned. And as someone who's working like kind of in the product, kind of in the brand, kind of in the marketing, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm in the messy middle. I have had to update that in our design comp so many times I'm exhausted from it. But you know what? We're a phoenix. We start again. I think it's good to, have that brain elasticity to stretch and have fun, and the openness. So openness and curiosity is the only way to get through it. And also the community, right? Because Something that was relevant in the icon making was one person would have an idea, another person would just kind of play with it, pass it on, gets picked up, might get thrown away, might get picked out of the trash again. Like, it's this collaboration, and we just have this beautiful community that we all want to help each other. It's like this healthy, but wanting the best out of it too. So it's a great place for creativity and something like this to thrive. So I think that might answer your question. Okay.
So. Yeah, I think it's perfect. I feel like that iteration, that change, that openness to kill your darlings and then go back to the drawing board and actually find them again and find a new meaning in that process is really unique. And I really love in your story how you said, like, there is this gazillion of explorations we are doing, right? We are trying to invent the world as we are not yet sure what the world is. And I think that desire to be open and curious about it is really driving it. So thank you for sharing. Lucas, you were talking a lot how Copilot is this personal assistant, and a lot is like this very intimate relationship with the person. We are talking a lot like a new era of technology is all about empathy. It's about care. Like, these feel that are fundamentally personal things. And yet you're designing the product for billions of people, right? Like, it will be used around the world in different circles. So how do you balance that scale, something that's personal versus something that's universal?
Yeah, thanks. It is such a tremendous challenge to try to do that. I think for us, what we've found is kind of to the earlier point of distilling, what we want Copilot to be at its core level and starting from there. So you start designing for those core attributes, those core behavioral principles, much like the core personality of kind of anyone. And then from that, I think we build from there. And so I think what I'm so excited about, and I know the team's so excited about, is thinking about, as the product gets better and we start thinking more about personalization, we think more about the individual, we allow the brand, the product design to be a vessel, not just for the identity of the product or the Copilot, but for the individual. So it becomes a little bit more like mine every day when I talk to it, when I use it. And maybe that's reflected in the visual style. Maybe it's connected to just the overall style. And then we think even further into the future. I think what's just really excited about the future of product design within AI is that there's going to be so much of it that's going to be generated kind of on the fly, designed in collaboration with Copilot. And in that sense, everyone's experience to some degree becomes their own. And it's about kind of building the framework for that versus every single individual detail. And that's really exciting because that, I think, in that sense, technology becomes more accessible. It becomes more natural to everyone. It meets us all where we're at on an individual level. And that's thrilling for me, both from a brand side and a product side at the same time.
I also would like to answer a little bit to that question too, because designing for a global product is a difficult thing to do, because whenever you design you don't want to design for designing for the default doesn't mean designing for the lowest common denominator. There's a challenge there. But what I think is really cool is that the globalization is actually implied by the people that are building it. Like, on my team, we have people in Costa Rica, Mexico. There's someone in New York, Brazil, Australia. We have locations all around the world. India, Africa, Europe. I speak to people in Norway like all the time. So there's this global community of builders that are working on this product. They're not just in Silicon Valley. So there's this inherent global view that is imbued on it. And something about design is that you don't have to know how to speak all these different languages to communicate. Design is intuitive, and we can have all of these, speak with symbols and visuals. So I think that there's it's like global by the builders, and that infuses into the product. So I wanted to do another shout out to our community. So.
Thank you. Thank you for answering, Lucas and Alexis. There is a question Q&A that touches a little bit on what we've been discussing. Like, it feels that all of this process is very quick and very nimble. Like you literally don't have time to come up with ideas, right? So Christine is asking, what are the suggestions for them as a creative leader to get up to speed with idea generation? Like, how do you do it faster? Because you were showing there's hundreds of outputs you need to produce in 0 time. Like, what are the best practices to get there fast?
Don't be afraid to have bad ideas. Like volume, and don't be afraid to have a bad idea. There's no such thing as a good idea without a bad idea. So I would say that kind of can kick things off quite a bit. And then maybe as a creative leader, making sure that people have like especially creatives, we're so tender sometimes, like creating the safe space where people are not afraid to have ideas out loud so that we can build off each other's ideas. Not a space where the pressure is to create the precious pearl right off the bat or have the best idea in the room. I think that's super important.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phyllis.
And there's no time to overthink, right? If you only have a short period of time, you just kind of have to just go, just make, just do. Like you can't get too internalized about it.
Yeah, and I think that foundation of like trust within a team is why the culture is so important. You know, having that bedrock of trust between creatives, especially so you can have those bad ideas is really key. I found, and then that opens up transparency in the work too. I think what Alessis talked about with the icon design and being able to take other people's ideas, it's a collective sense of ownership versus the individualistic, which sometimes can kind of shield work away. And I got to protect my little thing and my idea, and that kind of comes at the cost of iteration and collaboration and transparency.
Dry your ego, put it in a trash bag, throw it out the window.
That's right.
There is another beautiful question from Ender, like designing visual identity for an AI. Has it changed how you use AI personally? Everybody's thinking. I will say my story. When we launched the personal companion a few weeks ago, I think the announcement actually was last Monday in New York, because I saw a lot of the work and I was privy to it, and I really loved the new color, the new aesthetic, the new UX, and how much it's all about your personal things. So what I've realized, I'm now using it solely to talk about like difficult things, like, hey, how to have this hard conversation. Hey, I'm struggling with this. Like it became extremely focused on mental health for me. And I don't know why, maybe because it just became the product of looking at the work, seeing how it's all about personality and your own feelings. And I'm manifesting my feelings into how I interact with this product. At least that's what
I could expand on that a little bit too. I think, we really like this idea that having a personal AI is kind of like a third space where, it's similar to our lives. Like we have work, we have home. It's been disrupted a little bit from COVID, but there's also the cafe, there's the library, there's these shared spaces with other people. And I think we haven't really had that for ideas or thoughts or emotions. Like we can let them rattle around in our head, or if we're lucky, there's someone close to us, we can talk through it. But not everyone has that at every moment, or sometimes you're on the go, you're in the car, and it just helps to have like, let me get this idea out of my head. It could be an idea for a new book. It could be an idea of like this project, or it's just like, man, how do I get the cortisol to stop flowing through my veins for like 2 minutes? And it's just having a sounding board when you can have a natural voice conversation. It kind of unlocks different types of ways of just kind of interacting. So that's what I do a lot. The way it's changed for me is sometimes I just turn it on in the car if I'm on a commute, and I can just like kind of brainstorm ideas very naturally versus just fume in traffic.
Yeah, and I'll also say that there's a lot of anxiety when it comes to AI that's existing in our culture, especially for us creatives. Like, will AI replace me? Like that's created with AI. Well, shame on that thing. And I think by being a designer, building being a part of the building of it, you really do see that it's a tool to help benefit the creative process, not replace it. And we have this saying that humans are creative, not the AI. And so I think by like building it and having this manifesto, and you're able to leverage it as a tool as a human. And I think and actually that's really powerful. Just the feeling of anxiety can be huge, and just want to let everyone know that these things, like, they're not being designed to replace, or they're just being here to enhance. Much like, a calculator for mathematicians. A mathematician is still there and relevant and creative. This is just to help boost your process. So
I'll build on your answer, Alexis, because Mike is asking how are we using Copilot in the actual design project? And I'll say that in some instances we use it to brainstorm ideas, like, hey, we are in this territory, what are different ways in? And then it's really in your control to take it in different directions. On one of the projects, we used Copilot to help us ideate on some iconography, some of the illustration work, and then we designed it. Like, it was the starting point, and then we took it further. So to Alexis's call out, AI is not creative, you are. And that is really the approach we're using with how we're integrating it into our work.
Probably the best thing that we've, and on my team, have used Copilot for is capturing notes from meetings. It's so taxing to have to think, oh, what was discussed and like what's the follow-up, but having that output at the end of a meeting captured and telling you, okay, like, this is what was discussed, this is the next step, and having that as a document that exists really does help. Like, especially when you have a really complex company like Microsoft, many different teams, it really does help to be inclusive by sharing those notes for people that maybe were not in the room or could catch up, follow up async. And so there's this democratization that has happened with creativity that is not in creativity itself, but it's like the organization of it and the process of it. It's like a really great tool to help us all get on the same page.
Thank you. There is a few groups of questions I'm seeing. So one question is about responsibility, like how are we designing with accessibility in mind, specifically like the use of pastels, how are we thinking about the color we're using for the fonts, like how is this accessible? And in connection, the responsibility to the planet and the sustainability and the impact on the world. So can you folks speak to both of these aspects? Accessibility, maybe we start there.
Lucas, do you want to take that one for the?
It's tremendously important. I think like the truth of accessibility, I think, is like that's like a fundamental motivator for us to build AI tools and systems that are very natural. They're very accessible. They meet us where we're at on so many levels. And I think that kind of connects back to the first question on designing for the individual. So I think over time, we're going to build systems that are more and more attuned to where everyone's at cognitively, the day-to-day, and then just capabilities as well. And so, and kind of be this great augmenter of all of us in really beautiful ways. And so we have, more tactically though, we have full teams that are embedded in the work and really give us like great checkpoints before we ship, before we deliver work, making sure it's accessible. And one thing I've learned here since joining is just the really high standards in quality and accessibility on everything that we ship out.
Like I would say, like accessibility is a built-in, not a bolt-on. That's right. What we often use at the company. And it comes from the contrast ratios to working with the disability community inside Microsoft, like through our employee resource groups, through the experts, through the dedicated team. So it's really a culture of building products from the get-go that are accessible. And we always strive to hit like the perfect score on the websites, on the products, but I think it's always a journey as well. And I think accessibility for us is not just about building into the product, it's also making sure that the folks and the people with disabilities can use the products in the way that works for them and can achieve constantly iterating and doing more there, like whether it's in the gaming with the Xbox Adaptive Controller, whether it's in PCs where we're creating the kits for folks to be able to use them, or whether we're how we are evaluating creative, if it's accessible or not. So Melissa, to your question, like it's a really broad, I would say, culture. Like that's what we started with. Design as a culture. It's part of the design culture of the company.
Well,
And I
and
think the product is heading towards really adaptive and intelligent UX. Like this is where the future is headed, like the personalization that Lucas was talking about. Like yes, right now we have pretty standard inputs and interactive models for working with AI. But as AI learns from you, it can really kind of cater and design the UI specifically to you. So personalization and different people of all abilities, like it's going to be able to meet people where they are, where products haven't been able to do that in the past, like that truly empathetic, intuitive design. So I think I'm really excited for when we get there. I don't know when we'll get there, but that is something that we're constantly working towards.
Thank you for sharing. I think we're almost at time, and there's tons of interest, tons of questions. Thank you folks for asking that. One of the themes that I see is also coming up is this question of like, how do you, and Phyllis, you start touching on it, like we're talking about designing for emotions. We're talking about designing like for something that feels very personal. And we need to iterate on a bazillion of ideas immediately. Like, how do we evaluate that these ideas are right? Like, how do we make sure we are delivering what we feel is right? Like, how do we even have this conversation?
Yeah, that's definitely tricky. And I don't think we can have a one size fit all process on that. I go back to, at the end of the day, like what feels most cohesive and connected and true to the product experience itself. And fortunately, towards the end of our process, our Copilot was taking form, and we could talk to it, and you could joke with it, you could have a voice conversation with it. And I think that just fills so many signals, kind of even unconsciously, of like, I understand what this feels like. And then how do we build out from there? And then that's the true rubric of what's connected. What are the ideas that are winning? What are the ideas that aren't winning? And I just always liken the experience of both branding and design to walking into a restaurant that you love. And I would imagine all of us, if we have a restaurant we love, there's this cohesive feeling you get from the sign, from what the door feels like, for greeting by the staff there, to what the options on the menu. There's like an idea that like just feels true and connected and cohesive. And that's what I go back to, of like, are we creating something that feels connected? And the truth of this product is that, when you talk to it, what type of feelings does it evoke? And then how do we elevate those and make sure we're doing something that feels as one?
That's all answered, Phyllis. How do you evaluate?
I don't know. Throw away the brief. I don't know. Put it in the bag with the ego and throw it out the window. I don't know. I think it goes back sometimes to like, the not overthinking it. It's almost like the rally cry sometimes for emotion and evaluating it is, don't try, like just feel. And I think that's what Lucas was just saying. Like there's something like emotions, they don't try, they happen, they're improvisational. They're very difficult to control depending who you are. Like they happen whether they're expressed or not. And there's a little bit of that. You have to walk into work and look at it from a natural, immediate reaction. Like it's in our gut. Little pieces of our brain are literally in our gut. So listen to your gut and let that piece of the brain do its job. You can always go back to a creative brief and make sure, oh yeah, the minimum size check, and all the tactical stuff has been accomplished. But just, reacting to something in the moment is it's a beautiful way to evaluate work, and just trust that your brain knows all the stuff that you have to tackle after that point. Don't try, people. Don't try.
Okay, we are at time. That will be our closing thoughts. Don't try.
Don't try.
You, Alexis. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, Lishan.